Hi guys, and today I'll be playing a trick and a treat. And it's a visual novel composed of two short stories. The first one is called Dead Letters, in which a man working at a post office opens a letter not meant for his eyes and learns something he shouldn't have. Second story, Vamp Me, is about Jen, who arrives home after a Halloween party, only to be met with an unexpected sight. So let's start. Trick or treat? Trick. Dead Letters is a creepy short story. Read Dead Letters. Yes. Dead Letters, written by Sadie D. Forrest. A tribute to Weird Tales, a problematic fave. Have you ever wondered what happened to mail that can't be delivered? Wrong addresses, letters bound for demolished buildings, sent to dead friends and relatives, incorrect post stamps, and no return to sender? Maybe you heard of Dead Letters Office. A morbid name, to be sure. Something about these ink-stained and paper-wrapped professions that attracts these kinds of morbid names. Newspapers have their morgues and night wires, and the post office has dead letters. But much like these two other institutions, there's really much to write home about the Dead Letters Office. It's mostly perfectly mundane, little missives that have nowhere to go, to be destroyed and never read. Dead on arrival. It will probably surprise very few of my readers to know, however, that many dead letters are read. The kind of tedious work that goes into the job has driven many of fellow dead letter men to crack open an envelope just to kill the monotony. Like I said, it's mostly nothing, but occasionally you get something. A juicy love letter some secretive Don Juan sent to a well-to-do lady about town, a politician writing to a local mob boss, a pastor writing to a shady contract about some bootleg hooch. You're never surprised why they didn't put a return address. These kinds of letters sometimes are a wellspring of local gossip, but most dead letter clerks know not to press their luck. Sometimes it's better to leave well enough alone with dead letters. Take, for example, a clerk I used to work with. Former clerk, I should say, is currently serving life in the state penitentiary. I won't say which one or what his name was, but it made the national news. He found a letter addressed to his wife, but the sender forgot to include any address whatsoever. Now, who could be writing to my wife, he must have thought, opening the letter. The postman was who. Well, a couple of shots of hard liquor he had been saving since the day prohibition went into effect later. Both the missus and the offending postman have a bullet between their eyes, and he's being hauled downtown, no resistance. Personally, I don't read any dead letters that cross my desk anymore. Not because of the clerk above. No, that spooked me for a bit. But before too long, I was back at it with a real zeal. It was the night a letter crossed my desk bound for an address in a city called Sanders that broke my habit. Now, this particular letter did have a return address. The sender was from a city called Enox. I promise you, dear reader, if you buy any atlas, you could search the rest of your life and never find a city called Sanders or Enox. I still remember both addresses as clear as day. From Dr. Johnson W. Bryant, 245 Arnold Street, Enox, to Dr. Samuel Dean, 510 North Haverbrook Street, Sanders. The letter read as follows. Dear Dr. Dean, this is in response to your last letter, of course. I hope my letter finds you well. As for me, the past 3 weeks since I last wrote, I have made great strides in our mutual field of interest. You certainly were on the money with your suggestion of human corpses as a storage conduct for the entities of our little devices have been pulling down out of the air. I admit I was reluctant to try it at first. The ghoulish process of procuring the cadaver is not one I wish to recount in detail, and lowering the cold mass of flesh into the vat of black mist touched my heart with icy fingers of fear and anticipation. The dogs and apes I had used previously had initially thrilled me with their twitching and jerking reanimation when they had touched that living mist, but a human corpse produced, as you intimated, much more satisfying and remarkable results. The mist immediately hugged itself to the surface of the slightly desiccated body. I'm kicking myself now for not putting in the work to obtain a fresher specimen. And the vocal cords that should have been forever silenced immediately vibrated into a strange and otherworldly life. The voice gave a horrendous shriek and began talking in what was clearly a language, but not one created to be spoken with the limitations of the human body. After what sounded like random gibbering, it eventually settled into a kind of chant. The best I can record it is as follows. Urinam ich nil? What it means, as you might imagine, I couldn't possibly guess. I have done many things to try to communicate with the body which is still alive, but while it does seem to respond to stimuli, it has not as of yet changed its constant refrain. Eagerly anticipating your next letter and an update on your progress with the device. Your friend, Dr. Johnson's W. Bryant. As you might guess, this letter unsettled me, but I immediately decided it must be some bizarre prank or hoax. Send out enough of these phony letters in the hopes of spooking some dishonest mail clerk like myself. Maybe not the most believable explanation, but certainly more believable than the letter itself. I put the letter aside and went back to sorting and recording the envelopes on my desk. To my great horror, I soon came across another one bearing the same names and address with the to and from reversed, post date 3 weeks before the first letter I read. Dear Dr. Johnson W. Bryant, well, color me surprised, old friend. I built the device as you described, and the infernal machine works. Now that the egg is in my face, I suppose it doesn't hurt to say your previous letters describing the device had led me to believe you had taken leave of your senses. It was only with great reluctance and respect for an old colleague that I built the thing according to the blueprints you were kind enough to send. My perturbation held even at its whirling and rumbled to life, and a strange black mist formed in the collecting vat. The mist had convinced me that your device did something, but surely it couldn't reanimate the dead. How wrong I was. My first experiment was with a rat, which to my great surprise attempted to walk on its 4 legs and give the most otherworldly squeaks and chittering I have ever heard. It continued to ambulate in the grotesque fashion for some 15 minutes before collapsing back into a state of death, the black mist dissipating from the body into the air and fading away. I shudder to think that what this strange living mist, and I am sure that it is some kind of living being, would do when exposed to a human corpse. Perhaps, and this might simply be a wild flight of imagination, could even use the human body as a conduit for speech. Yours, Dr. Samuel Dean. What kind of weird experiments? It was simply too much to believe. The letters I had previously read had been in response to another undeniable letter. It must be, I thought, an elaborate hoax, but for whose benefit was beyond me. I tried to put it out of my mind as I got back to the monotonous task of checking, sorting, and making an inventory of the piles of forsaken postage that I had to get through before the end of my shift. I put it out for another week, resisting the temptation to open anything that crossed my desk. But eventually another letter arrived from the venerable Dr. Johnson W. Bryant. The thing gave off an acrid of sour smell and was covered with what appeared to be ink stains. My base and ancient fears told me to immediately destroy the thing, but my logical and modern mind told me that nothing in the plain white envelope could hurt me. This part of me, and a not small amount of curiosity, got the better of me in the end. Dear Dr. Dean, the lack of response to my last letter has caused a great deal of concern, and I only hope I am not reaching you too late. I urge you to destroy the device. No good can come of its use. I hope you do so before reading another word of this letter. I'll have only just recently destroyed my device. Its unholy black smoke is still burning my skin and eyes, and I can only hope that I have put its evil behind me. The horrible thing spoke to me. Its monastic chanting broke into English. I did not believe what it was saying had changed, but rather suddenly it made sense to me. It is difficult to describe, and I can only pray that you have not had this experience. Its words no longer sounded to me like, that, but rather they rang as clear as day. Oh, can't understand that either. Let us in to feast? Hearing these words as English flooded my mind with demonical visions, visions of cities awash with blood and dark flames, great clouds of black mist sweeping the lands, and horrible rotting corpses crawling about and feasting on the living. I implore you to destroy the device as I have, Dr. Bryant. It was becoming more and more outlandish, hardly worth taking seriously. I was ready to dismiss it as a hoax, as a bad bit of ghoulish storytellings, but I had noticed another letter addressed in a crude hand to Dr. Bryant. The letters looked like they were written not with ink, but in some mixture of blood and dirty rainwater. This time there was no return address. The envelope smelled of crypt and felt slightly damp to the touch. I doubt I will live to the day where I can forget what was written within. Dr. Bryant. Dean is no more. Xanders is no more. It was simply that. Since that day, I haven't opened a single dead letter or even felt the temptation. I replaced this old vice with drinking, but I can't forget. Sometimes dead letters cross my desk with other outlandish city names. Lings, Taunt, Agbar, Egbik. And sometimes they have that smell. Sometimes the addresses are written in blood and dirty rainwater. But I have them destroyed along with all the other love letters that will never be read. I still dream of those letters from Xanders and Enochs. I still dream of all those ill-fated doctors. Tell myself that it was all a hoax 1,000 times and more, and I feel like I have lived those lives in their squalid and dungeon-like urban laboratories, and I see their infernal device. It's so simple. It would be the easiest thing for even I, a man with no scientific skill, to build, and the cemeteries here have no guards. And I can smell that necrid scent in my nose, and I reach once more for the sweet oblivion of the bottle. The end. Whoa, that's freaky. Oh, that was an interesting story. It was unsettling, scary, and unsettling type of cryptid way, because you really don't know what happened to both the doctors. Oh, actually, you can infer that they died. The creature overtook their bodies and whatnot and went into whatever world they were in. So let's get for the treat. Vamp Me, the silly short story. Can you read it? Yes. Vamp Me, written by Crystal DeForest. Jenna left the Halloween party early, having gotten what she wanted to get out of it. Namely, free booze and the girl's phone number. She didn't care for the mostly obnoxious company, the frat boys and the chasers that gawked at her and her witch costume every chance they got. So she took home her winnings, a crumpled paper in her pocket and an unstable swagger in her step. Stumbling through the darkness, she arrived at the small apartment she shared with her roommate, Eric. She had just gone in and taken off her shoes when she noticed something unusual. Tiny, dimly reflected lights in the darkness in front of her, and a pungent odor hanging in the air. Squinting and trying to make out what lay ahead in the dark, she felt around the wall for the light switch. Nothing could have prepared her for the sight that awaited. Oh God. On the floor ahead of her was a massive red pentagram scrawled out like amateur calligraphy. Candles stood on each corner, and a container of strange incense burned in front of it. The most shocking of all to Jen was the sight of her housemate standing in front of it all, and a thin book in his left hand and something red and dripping in his other. He looked at her, eyes registering surprise, and proclaimed simply, hey. Eric, what the hell? Jen shouted, looking back and forth between him and the pentagram. What is this? Nothing. He looked away, ears burning red. Well, this doesn't look like nothing. The floor? Eric, the floor. We don't own the floor here, you can't just... She's just mad that he's destroying property that's not theirs. Jen's foot stomped on the pentagram, only realizing then it's still wet. Ah, shit. Careful there. Don't want to drag too much blood around the... Eric stopped as soon as he realized what he said. Did you just say blood? The color began to drain from her face as she fearfully looked at the pentagram, to the bloody footprint she left, to Eric, and finally back to the dripping red mass in her roommate's hand. Oh God. Jen shuddered, staring intensely at Eric's hand. Is that... She swallowed, gasping for air before she managed to finish her sentence, the intensity of the situation beginning to sober her up. Was that the beef tenderloin that was defrosting? Do you know how much that cost? Jen, girl, look, the marks the chicken was leaving just were invisible enough. I had to do it. We dragged raw chicken across our floor. Well, I wouldn't say I dragged it. It was more like Eric moved to scratch his forehead, but remembering his left hand was holding raw meat, awkwardly moved it back to where it was. It was more like I painting with it, you know? Eric, buddy, pal, let me tell you. The witch huffed and paced around for a moment before turning back and walking towards her friend. There had to be a damn good reason for this, and it goes without saying that you gotta clean this all up. Right. I can explain. You see, it's like, what's the book you have there? Jen stood on her toes trying to see the cover, and her taller friend turned away almost by reflex. Nothing. You seem flustered, eyes darting around the room to the pentagram, to Jen, to her witch's hat, and back to the book. It's a book? Give me that. Jen swayed forward, grabbing the book away from Eric, who could even react. Ignoring her protest, she read the title out loud. A Beginner's Guide to Summoning Girl Dracula. Complete the ritual and she'll vamp you and totally trans your gender. The room was quiet for what felt like an eternity. Alright, I've got a lot of questions. Firstly, this is a prank. Eric's face was deep red and starting to get sweaty. This is a prank? Yes. This is a prank that involves you. If we meet across our floor to summon Girl Dracula who, I quote, trans your gender? Yes. Hey, is there anything you'd like to tell me? No. Okay, that's alright. Jen looked back towards the pentagram surrounded by candles. Well, let's start by cleaning this up and hope it didn't leave much of a... Yes. Yes? Yes, cleaning it up? Yes, I have something to tell you. Okay, well, go for it. Her roommate took a deep breath. I think I'm like a girl. Or something. Jen's face lit up. Hey, great! Join the club. She offered her friend a fist bump, who shyly accepted. Her housemate realized a moment later that she had accidentally used the hand holding the meat. Sorry. I think I'd like to try out the name Erica, if that's okay with you. Hey, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, it would be awfully hypocritical of me if I did. She shrugs. Now let's get rid of all this. And Jen? Girl. Bestie. Erica interrupted. No can do, huh? If we clean it up now, I won't be able to summon Girl Dracula. What? What do you mean summon Girl Dracula? The witch looked at her friend with a baffled look on her face. This isn't, Erica, you know you don't have to prove anything. You're a girl. You don't have to do all of this. She probably just gestured at the blood on the floor to prove that. You want to be a girl? Well, guess what? You can just be one. Oh, I think I've known that all along. Erica smiled warmly at her friend. Jen sighed in relief. Okay, good. You get it. How about I take you clothes shopping tomorrow? Do you feel ready for that? Yeah, I think I like that a lot. Great. So, it would be great to have something that fits after I summon GD. GD. A nickname already? Girl Dracula? Girl Dracula. Of course. Jen took a deep breath, holding her hands to her temples. So it was like, is the book using Dracula as another word for vampire? Or do you just want to summon a vampire later? Or is her name Girl Dracula? Hey, you got it. Erica grinned, making finger guns at Jen. Her name is Girl Dracula. She's gonna totally vamp me. This is ridiculous. Jen said, holding her own head with her hands. This is stupid. None of this makes sense. Vampires don't trans people's genders. That's where you're, wrong. I read it all in the book. Newly out girl tapped her head with her fingers smugly. Okay then, looking aside from the fact that this won't work, how is it supposed to work? Alright Jen, buckle up. Erica said confidently, crossing her arms. I'm gonna walk you through this. Okay, alright. I think I'm ready. Step 1. Erica proclaimed, sticking one finger upwards before gesturing to the bloody pentagram. This. Okay, alright. Got it. Jen's stone face nodded. Step 2. The would-be summoner raised 2 fingers up this time. Girl Dracula appears. I see. Step 3. Smirk runs on Erica's face. She totally vamps you. Okay, before we go further, what does that mean? Jen held out her hand in a stop gesture. It was really important we establish this. She, Her roommate shyly looked away, scratching the back of her head with her free hand. She, bites you or something? Okay, I see. She bites you and then... Step 4. Erica goes back to her proclamations. You become a girl. You went through this. You already are... I know. I get it. I know. Erica held out her hand, other hand dropping the meat she was carrying on the floor. She glanced down and then glanced back up again, eyes darting around. But like, I want boobs and stuff. Jen sighed. You know, I know where you can get you hooked up with some HRT. If that's something you're interested in. Yeah, but like, I'm scared of needles. Okay, sure, but like, there's pills, patches, and... You're scared of needles, but you're not scared of being bitten? Jen was at the other end of her rope. It's totally different. How is it? Can't we just clean the blood off the floor already? And I won't have to get expensive surgeries or anything if she bans me. Erica nodded. Wait, Erica, hold up. The shorter girl raised an eyebrow. You're telling me that, like, this isn't just magical HRT? It's also magical SRS? Yeah, it's all of that. The whole deal. Jen paused for a moment, pondering and pondering. Then she gave her answer. Alright. F it. I'm in. Summon GD. I'm ready to get my shit vamped. GD? Girl Dracula? Oh. Erica smiled. Yeah. What do we do to finish those whole summoning thing? Don't worry, I got you. Erica nodded sagely. I finished everything before you got here. The only part left is waiting until midnight or something. Midnight? Hold on, when did I get back here again? As the taller girl took out her phone to check, the glass screen shattered as the clock struck the appointed time. The flames of the candles grew to blazing dark purple columns, and the black mist suddenly burst forth from the pentagram, quickly filling the room, as unearthly laughter sounded out from every direction. The two girls began coughing, gasping for air. Jen tried to no avail, to sweep the mist away by waving her hands around. Just when they both thought they could take no more, the dark mist thinned out, and a lone figure was crouched in the center of the ritual space. Clad in a crimson-lined black mantle, she looked at the two astonished women before her. Grinning hauntingly, she struck her arm out to her side, parting her cape dramatically, and proclaimed, hey there. The end. Okay, and that is the end of Trick and a Treat. I'm just gonna show the credits. The credits are the credits. They're not scary or very silly. Well, they're probably not that silly. View it? Might as well. Mrs. On, this is Sadie, the Forest of Aragon. Seem to have, whether through intention or misadventure, selected the credits, so I'll be going through them for you. Start with the fonts. We used to, believe it or not, 2 fonts in this one. Those would be... Oh, that's a lot. I'm not supposed to show you this as well. Okay. Talk about the music. Well, I'm just gonna go through the credits. Gnawing on your arm? Okay, that is the end of A Trick and a Treat. I like both the stories. I think the first one, the first one was really scary and whatnot, and like very unsettling, like, you know, you're not supposed to read that type of stuff way. I mean, it didn't affect the male post office worker, like, I think physically, like, nothing went out to get him, but like, it affected him mentally to the point where he still thinks about it and thinks like something bad was unleashed onto this world, and there's like nothing he could do about it but just like about his life, I guess. And no, Vamp Me was a nice contrast to the other story, in which it talks about something like light and funny and whatnot. I just wish Vamp Me was just a little bit longer, so I can see like the outcome of what Girl Dracula did at the end. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Bye.